My name is Caleb Mercer, 34 years old, and I can tell you the exact moment I learned that love can have a receipt. It started with a phone call. Mom's voice was soft, too soft, that tone she only used when she needed something. "Honey," she said, "we've had a bit of a scare. Your dad was on the roof after that storm trying to patch a leak, and he almost fell. He could have broken his neck." I froze halfway through sorting invoices for work. "What do you mean, almost fell?" Her sigh trembled through the receiver. "He's fine, but the roof isn't. The inspector said we've got mold, water damage, insulation ruined. It's bad, Caleb. We can't afford another loan, not with the medical bills." That was all it took. $8,000. That's what the higher quote came to. She'd even sent photos, the kind of close-ups that made everything look worse than it was. I wired the money that afternoon. My wife, Hannah, didn't even question it. "They're your parents," she said gently. "If they need help, we help." And I believed her. Believed them. We'd been careful with money for years, saving every extra dollar for our daughter's school fund, but this was family. Roofs don't wait. For a week, silence. Then a single text from Mom. "The guys are working on it. It's noisy." That was all. Until one night, Hannah came into the living room holding her phone, her eyebrows drawn together. "You need to see this," she said. On her screen was a Facebook post from my sister Michelle, who barely used social media. The caption, "Finally home." The first photo was a shot of my parents' house, except it wasn't the house I knew. It was gleaming. Fresh gray siding, a wraparound porch with white railings, new double-paned windows, landscaping lit like a commercial. Then came the inside. A renovated kitchen, stone countertops, matching backsplash, new light fixtures. There was a pool heater, a new deck, even strings of fairy lights curled around the fence posts. But it wasn't the renovation that gutted me. It was the last 10 photos. A party. Tables draped in white cloths, trays of catered food, glasses of champagne. My cousins, my aunts, my parents, Michelle, even the neighbors. Everyone but me, and my daughter. She still drew pictures of Nana and Papa's house with crayons and crooked hearts. I sat there scrolling through photo after photo until I couldn't feel my hands. I messaged Mom, "How's the roof holding up?" She replied, "Looks great. We're finally proud of our home again." No mention of the party. No mention of us. So I asked directly, why weren't we invited? Her reply came 5 minutes later, cold and unblinking. "Oh, that was just for family." 4 words. Just for family. I stared at them until the screen dimmed. Hannah touched my arm. What does she mean by that? I didn't answer. I just got up, walked to the office, and opened our shared account. With a few clicks, I moved the $8,000 I'd wired back into my personal account. No warning, no explanation. If they could redefine family, so could I. By morning, my phone was lit up with 51 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Michelle, even 2 cousins I hadn't heard from in years. The messages blurred together. "You can't just take that money. We already spent it. You're being dramatic." That afternoon, the doorbell rang. Hannah peeked through the window. "It's them," she whispered. My stomach dropped. When I opened the door, Mom didn't say a word. She just collapsed, fell to her knees like she'd been shot. The sound she made was raw, almost theatrical. Dad stood behind her, arms stiff, jaw locked, his silence heavier than shouting. "You stole our money," she wailed. "After everything we've done for you." Neighbors peeked out from porches. Curtains twitched. I thought of my daughter upstairs, probably hearing this through her window. "Mom," I said firmly, "get up. You're making a scene." She sobbed harder, crawling forward like she was in some tragedy she'd written herself. Hannah appeared behind me, arms folded, face like steel. She didn't have to say a thing. I stepped aside and let them in, because the longer they stayed outside, the more it became a neighborhood spectacle. Inside, I didn't offer them water, didn't ask them to sit. "What was that party?" I asked. "Why weren't we invited?" Mom sniffled, dabbing her eyes with tissues from her purse. "It wasn't a party," she said. "It was a little gathering, mostly neighbors and close family." "And what am I?" She didn't answer. Dad cleared his throat. "The roof's fixed," he muttered. I looked at him. Funny, because I saw new siding, new windows, new landscaping. That doesn't look like just a roof. He shifted. "Well, your mom wanted to make the house nice again. We took out a loan, but we used your money as a deposit." "A deposit?" I cut in. "You guilted me into wiring money because you said Dad almost fell off the roof. You said the house was falling apart." Mom straightened, tone sharpening. "It was falling apart, emotionally. You don't understand what it's like to live in a house that embarrasses you. Embarrasses you? I repeated, incredulous. You lied to me for a facelift, a party I wasn't even part of. Dad finally spoke, voice low. Don't raise your voice to your mother. I stared at him. You let her lie to your son. You both did. Mom's expression flickered. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope, thrusting it toward me. Inside was a glossy catalog page. A dollhouse circled in red marker, the one my daughter had begged for all summer. It's already in the car, she said. We bought it before all this happened. She deserves something nice. Don't let this ruin her happiness, Caleb. It took everything in me not to laugh. You used my money to buy my daughter a dollhouse, I said quietly. Mom's eyes glistened. She'll love it. I'm sure she will, I said. But you're still walking home. Dad stiffened. You're really going to throw your parents out like this? It's late. You live 10 blocks away, I said. You'll manage. They stood there for a moment, waiting for me to break. I didn't. They left without a goodbye. No apology, no attempt at truth, just the sound of the door closing behind them, sealing something I hadn't realized was open too long. That night, Hannah found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the catalog page. Do you regret it? She asked softly. I shook my head. No, I regret believing them. We gave the dollhouse to our daughter the next morning. She squealed, hugged us both, and started setting up the tiny furniture right there on the carpet. She didn't know what it represented. But I did. It wasn't a gift. It was bait. And I'd finally stopped biting. For 9 days, the phone stayed quiet. No calls, no messages. I thought maybe they'd taken the hint. But on the 10th day, everything changed again. On the 10th morning after the dollhouse, my phone lit up at 6:14 a.m. with a text that looked like concern wearing a mask. Your father hasn't eaten properly in days. I hope you're happy. Mom. I set the phone face down on the counter and stirred my daughter's oatmeal. Hannah glanced over the rim of her mug with that question in her eyes. Are we starting this day with chaos or with peace? I picked peace, slid the phone into a drawer, and kissed my kid's head as she told me the tiny cardboard family in her new dollhouse were going on vacation to the fridge. At 9:03 a.m., another text arrived. Do you think your daughter even remembers us? By noon, Mom had switched strategies. I guess your wife's opinion matters more than your own now. That one landed like a fingernail on a chalkboard. The way she said your wife, like Hannah was a puppeteer with strings threaded through my spine. I typed and erased 3 responses, then decided the only answer worth giving was a boundary. I blocked her number. An hour later, she went public. Michelle's feed pinged Hannah again. A photo of the dollhouse, still in its box, staged under soft lighting in my parents' garage. The caption read, "Bought this for our little princess. Maybe one day she'll see it. Maybe one day her mother will let her." The comments filled fast. Grandparents are irreplaceable. Kids always come back. Praying for family restoration. Michelle dropped a heart emoji. Of course she did. She only called me when she needed a sitter or a ride or a signature. Tears for strangers. Invoices for me. By evening, the coincidences began. Dad waited for me in the frozen aisle near the school-adjacent grocery store, parked between the peas and the ice cream like a sentry. He didn't even pretend surprise when I turned the corner. Going to keep dragging this out? He asked, arms crossed, voice pitched low, calm enough to sound reasonable, loud enough for the woman with the cart of pre-made casseroles to hear. Dragging what out? I said, studying a bag of stir-fry vegetables I didn't plan to buy. Punishing your mother. I looked up and met his eyes. I'm not punishing her. I'm stepping back. He sniffed. Same thing. I put the vegetables in my cart and walked away. He didn't follow, but the frost followed me to my car. 2 days later, Mom materialized at the coffee shop by my office. She sat one table over, flipping a magazine, upside down, until I looked up. Then she said loudly enough for the barista and the woman typing in noise-canceling headphones to hear, "Are you really okay with your daughter growing up without grandparents?" I stood, left my coffee full on the table, and walked straight out into the cold. On the street, my hands shook, not from fear, but from a familiar grief, the one you feel when you realize the person you were trying to negotiate with isn't negotiating at all. They're staging. That night, my phone rang from an unknown number. I shouldn't have picked up. I did. Caleb? It was my aunt's voice. The aunt who usually stayed neutral. Switzerland, with better casseroles. Before I could answer, Mom took the line. "You've changed," she said. "Ever since you married her, you're not the same. You're cold, disrespectful, proud. He will leave you. When he does, and he will We'll still be here. We're the only ones who will love you after. For a second, the floor tilted. Not because I believed her, but because she knew exactly where to aim. The soft spot every married person carries. The one labeled, "What if I'm hard to love?" Hannah was at the sink behind me, rinsing plates. I put the call on speaker and let the whole poison spill into the open. When it ended, she dried her hands, set the towel down, and asked very calmly, "So, what are you going to do?" I stared at the wall clock and felt something inside it click over from hoping to knowing. I'm going to show them what it looks like when I stop playing along. I blocked Mom's new number, then I blocked Dad's, then Michelle's, then the cousins who had just a few questions, the aunt who coughed the cough people use before they say, "Well, you know how your mother is," as if pathology were a horoscope. The quiet lasted 12 hours. At noon the next day, someone knocked on our door. When I checked the camera, Cousin Amy stood on the porch holding a tray of lemon bars. She had the same pinched smile she'd worn since we were kids. Amy is conflict-averse in a way that makes you want to lay a blanket over her and put on soft music. She once cried during Monopoly when someone built a hotel. I opened the door anyway. "I was in the area," she blurted before I asked. "They asked me to talk to you." She set the lemon bars down like a passport, then perched on the edge of the couch as if commitment might cause an explosion. "Things have gotten out of hand," she rushed on. "Your mom she's unraveling. Your dad's angry. They're thinking about selling the house." I didn't speak, I waited. It took 8 seconds. "They're hoping you'll let them stay here, just until things calm down. In the guest room, just for a little while." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out too loud in my own living room. She flinched. "They gave me the lemon bars to bring," she added quickly. "Said you used to like them." "I do," I said. "I don't like being managed with them." Amy's eyes softened. For a second, she wasn't their envoy. She was a tired woman who wanted to put down a tray and not hold anyone's secrets. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "They told me a different version." "I know," I said. "It always stars me as the villain and them as the martyrs." On her way out, she turned back. "They really might sell the house." "It's theirs," I said. "They can do what they want with it." After she left, I called my dad's sister, the one who had stayed out of the family storms by setting her tent exactly on the high ground. "I need you to hear the whole thing," I said. I started at the beginning, the roof call, the wired money, the party, just for family, the dollhouse bait, the public post, the grocery ambush, the coffee shop performance, the prophecy about my marriage. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, the line stayed quiet long enough for me to think we'd dropped the call. Then she exhaled. "I had no idea," she said, and I believed her. "I've been hearing a very different story, that you're ashamed of where you came from, that your wife controls you, that you're cutting them off for no reason." Her voice got lower. "I'm angry, and I'm going to make some calls." "Please don't make it worse," I said. "I won't," she said. "I'll make it true." That night, I typed a message to the family group chat. It took me a long time to write something so short. "I'm done. Consider me no longer part of this family. Do not call. Do not come to my house. Do not write. I am not your son, not your brother, not your nephew. This is the last message you will ever get from me." I hit send. Then I went one by one and blocked every number, every profile, every cousin with a shared bloodline and a poor memory. For 48 hours, there was silence. It didn't feel like peace at first. It felt like the pause between thunder and rain. I kept waiting for the next hit. It arrived sideways, on Hannah's phone. Michelle had made a burner account and slid into my wife's messages. "Hey, it's Michelle. Please talk sense into Caleb before he does something he can't take back." Hannah blocked the account. Then she looked at me for a long moment. "They keep trying to pull me into a triangle that doesn't exist," she said. "They don't know I don't live there anymore." The next day, one of Hannah's old co-workers texted her, "Saw your father-in-law at the old office. He said Caleb's brainwashed and being kept from his real family. Dad hadn't worked there in a decade. He'd driven 30 miles to plant a rumor in soil too dusty to grow anything. That's when I understood. I hadn't just cut them off. I'd taken away an identity they'd built for me, and they were wandering the neighborhood looking for a replacement doorbell to press." That evening, the contractor called. Not his assistant, him. "Mr. Mercer," he said, voice careful. "Your parents gave me your number. They said you were handling the remaining payment on the renovation. If it doesn't come through, I may have to pursue legal action." I felt a cold line draw itself down my spine. They'd handed my name to their debt like it was a coupon. I am not involved, I said, slow and clear. I gave them money for a roof. They used it for other things. Do not contact me again. He hesitated. I understand. I apologize. I hung up and opened a new email account I'd been keeping for legal matters. Hannah watched me type my name and a password from across the room. We're doing this, she said. We're doing this, I said. 2 nights later, when we got home from the park, a folded card had been slid under our front door. No envelope, no postage. On the front, in gold script, let's start over. Inside, my mother's handwriting, the one I knew from years of birthday cards and grocery lists. She regretted how things played out, refused to apologize, and blamed miscommunication. Then the line that sat in my throat like a stone, you're still our son, whether you like it or not. It wasn't love, it was a deed, ownership, a claim. I threw the card away. 3 days after that, we saw them again at the grocery store, laughing with the parents of one of my daughter's classmates, casual and bright, like they were auditioning for the role of harmless. I steered our cart down another aisle, but Mom followed us out to the parking lot and stopped 3 feet from the trunk. You're going to regret this, she said as I loaded bags. You think you're strong now, but wait until she leaves you. We both know she will. My daughter was in the back seat, swinging her feet, counting the grapes I'd just bought. I closed the trunk, got in the driver's seat, and drove away without a word. My hands didn't shake this time. That night, I called my aunt again and told her what happened. Cut them off completely, she said. No more chances. You don't owe them anything. For years, I'd wondered if there was a version of peace that didn't require a war first. Now I knew. Sometimes the war is simply the refusal to keep bleeding. I spent the next day scrubbing the last traces of access, removing them from medical forms and emergency contacts, updating pickup authorizations at school, tightening the locks on every digital door. I wrote a final letter, printed my name in blue ink, sealed it, and put it in the mailbox. You no longer have a son. You made that choice when you lied, manipulated, and humiliated me. I don't hate you. I simply won't keep bleeding for people who cut me on purpose. This is the last you'll hear from me. As far as I'm concerned, I never existed to you. Return the favor. I expected silence. Instead, the doorbell camera caught a shadow at 10:41 p.m., and the next morning there was a manila envelope in our mailbox, hand-delivered, no postage. Inside, printed photos of me and my daughter taken from old Facebook albums, a note scrawled in the corner of one. Look what you're keeping from us. My hands shook then. I'm not proud of that. You can be right and still feel scared. I installed 3 more cameras that night, front door, backyard, garage, and filed a police report the next morning. Not because I thought they'd storm the house, but because I wanted the paper trail to exist before someone else wrote it for me. I thought maybe then they'd stop. That was before the note showed up in my daughter's backpack. The note was folded tight, no envelope, just a square of pink stationery that smelled faintly like my mother's perfume. My daughter handed it to me casually, like it was nothing. This was in my backpack, she said. It doesn't have a name. I unfolded it. Only one sentence in looping handwriting I knew too well. Real families forgive. You'll thank me one day. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just the words. It was where they'd been found, in my daughter's backpack, in her world. I took a deep breath, knelt down to her level. Sweetheart, who gave you this? She frowned, thinking hard. I don't know. It was just there after recess. I kissed her forehead and smiled like everything was fine. But inside, every protective instinct I had was screaming. That night, I called her school. The principal sounded startled when I told her what happened. I brought the note in the next morning. I need you to understand, I said, laying it on her desk. My parents have been harassing us. They can't contact my daughter. They can't come here, call, or send messages through anyone. If they try again, it becomes a legal issue. The principal nodded gravely. We'll make sure teachers know. If anyone unfamiliar tries to approach her, we'll notify you immediately. I thanked her, then went home and did something I should have done weeks ago. I filled out the restraining order forms. Didn't file them yet, but having them ready made me breathe easier. For a while, there was quiet again. But it wasn't peace. It was the heavy, watchful kind of silence that feels like someone standing just outside your window. Then came the emails. 3 of them, sent to my work account, which my parents should never have known. No message body, just subject lines. We raised you better. You're making a mistake. We forgive you anyway. I stared at the screen for a long time, then forwarded each one to HR. My manager called me in later that day, concern etched all over her face. "Do you need security to escort you out in the evenings?" she asked. I almost laughed. No, just documentation. I knew what they were trying to do. Corner me professionally, ruin my credibility, make me look unstable. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. 2 days later, it escalated again. A manila envelope appeared in our mailbox. No postage, no return address. Inside were printed photos, old ones, clearly lifted from social media. Me at my daughter's 5th birthday. Hannah and I at the park. My daughter on the swing. In the corner of one, written in the same looping script, "Look what you're keeping from us." My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped them. Not from fear, but rage. That night, I installed more cameras. One above the garage, one covering the side gate, another facing the street. The LED glow of red recording dots felt like tiny shields. When I told Hannah, she pressed her hand against her mouth. "They're using her," she whispered. "They're using our daughter to get to you." I nodded. Not for long. I filed an official harassment report with the local police the next day. The officer took my statement seriously, even promised extra patrols around the neighborhood for a week. But I knew how these things went. Paperwork meant protection on paper. Reality was slower. At home, I turned our living room into a war room, printed copies of texts, screenshots, timestamps from our doorbell camera. I labeled each file like evidence, not because I wanted to destroy them, but because I wanted to be ready when they tried to destroy me. A week later, they tried. It started with Michelle posting an old photo on social media. My mother holding my daughter as a baby, captioned, "She was so loved. She just doesn't know it anymore." Then another post. Funny how some people scream boundaries just to cover up their guilt. I didn't respond. I never do. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Seeing my daughter's face turned into emotional bait made something cold settle deep in my chest. Hannah reached across the couch that night, squeezing my hand. "They want your reaction," she said quietly. "Don't give it to them." I squeezed back. "I won't." Still, I wasn't prepared for what came next. A stranger, one of my wife's old coworkers, called Hannah out of the blue. "I just ran into your father-in-law," she said awkwardly. "He told me Caleb's going through a rough time, that you've isolated him. He's worried." Hannah's face drained of color. "He's telling people I'm abusive," she said. I nodded. They're rewriting the story again. Same script, new villain. That night, my phone buzzed with another unknown number. I didn't answer. Minutes later, a voicemail notification popped up. It was Mom. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "We just want to talk. This has gone too far. You know we'd never hurt you. We're family." Then her tone changed, lower, harder. "But you can't keep her from us forever. Sooner or later, she'll come looking for her grandparents, and what will you tell her then? That we didn't love her?" I deleted it immediately, but kept the transcript for my records. Later that night, I checked the cameras before bed. Motion alert, 11:22 p.m. The feed showed a car idling across the street for nearly 5 minutes. I couldn't see the faces. Then a figure stepped out, walked to our mailbox, and slipped something in. I froze the frame, zoomed in, fuzzy, dark clothing, slender build, hair tied back. Could have been anyone, but my gut knew. The next morning, I found a single card inside the mailbox. On the front, a watercolor of a smiling sun. Inside, another note. "We'll see her soon. You can't hide forever." No signature. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just manipulation. It was a campaign. A slow, methodical siege meant to wear me down until I surrendered out of exhaustion. Instead, it did the opposite. It clarified something. They didn't want forgiveness. They wanted access. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted control. And I was done letting them write the story. I spent that weekend cutting every possible thread they could still tug. I removed them from my medical records, took them off the emergency contact list at my daughter's school, even replaced our home security password with a 16-character string that no one but Hannah and I could memorize. Then I did one last thing. I sat down at my desk, opened my computer, and drafted a letter I should have written long ago. "To my parents, you no longer have a son. You made that choice when you lied, manipulated, and weaponized my family against me. I don't hate you. I simply refuse to keep bleeding for people who cut me on purpose. This is the last you'll ever hear from me. As far as I'm concerned, I never existed to you. Please return the favor." I printed it, signed in my name, sealed it in an envelope, and mailed it. I thought that would be the end. But 2 days later, an email from my lawyer arrived with a single line that made my chest tighten. Caleb, your parents have filed a small claims petition. They're suing you for $8,000. When the envelope came through certified mail, I already knew what it was. That heavy, government-stamped dread. My name printed in formal serif, my address sharp and cold under the courthouse logo. Inside, a copy of the petition, 8 pages of absurdity. They were suing me for the same $8,000 I'd sent them months earlier, claiming it had been a family gift that I later stole back through unauthorized access. They even used the words verbal agreement. I actually laughed. Not the funny kind, more like the stunned, breathless laugh of someone watching a building collapse in slow motion. When Hannah got home, I handed her the paper. She read the first paragraph, then lowered it carefully. You've got to be kidding me. They're serious, I said. They've built a whole reality out of lies. She leaned against the counter, rubbing her temple. So what do we do? I looked at her, calm now, beyond shock. We finish it. We called Rebecca Ortiz, the same attorney who'd helped us file the harassment report. She sounded almost amused. They're claiming you defrauded them of money they lied to get in the first place, she said. That's creative. Don't worry, we'll handle it. Still, when I hung up, I couldn't shake the image of them sitting across from a judge, telling this ridiculous story with absolute conviction, because that's what they did best, perform sincerity. But something unexpected happened. For once, I wasn't the only one tired of their theater. Within a week, people started reaching out. First was my aunt, the one who had listened without taking sides. She called and said, I'm done staying quiet. I'm testifying if they push this. Then she emailed me screenshots of texts my mother had sent her months ago. They were full of contradictions. Admissions about the loan, about the party, about borrowing money from Caleb because he'd understand. Then came cousin Amy, the lemon bar messenger. She texted me late one night. I can't believe it's come to this. They used me, Caleb. I'm sorry. If you need a statement, I'll give one. And she did. A detailed one. Every manipulation, every instruction to soften me up. Even the contractor stepped forward. He left a voicemail saying, For what it's worth, I told them I'd write something for you. You never handled any payment, and your name was never on the renovation paperwork. Piece by piece, their story unraveled before we even set foot in court. When the hearing finally came, I wore the same gray suit I'd worn to job interviews years ago. Clean lines, no flash. Hannah sat beside me, her hand steady on mine. Across the aisle, Mom wore pearls and a trembling smile. Dad sat rigid, eyes fixed on the table, pretending none of this was happening. The judge, a woman in her 50s with a voice that could cut through glass, scanned the paperwork. So, she began, you're alleging your son took funds you claim were gifted to you after you misrepresented their intended use? Mom blinked rapidly. He's twisted everything. We're the victims here. We only wanted help. He turned it into punishment. The judge raised an eyebrow. And you used the funds for a home renovation and party? Mom's mouth opened, then closed. It was a celebration of family. Except he wasn't invited, the judge said dryly. Dad cleared his throat. We thought it would cause tension. The judge leaned back. Mr. and Mrs. Mercer, this isn't family therapy. This is a court of law. Your son has documented proof of the transaction, your communications, and your misuse of funds. This is, frankly, a gross misuse of legal resources. Case dismissed. It was over in less than 10 minutes. But of course, Mom couldn't let the curtain fall quietly. As the judge stood to leave, she rose too, her voice slicing through the quiet courtroom. He's not our son anymore, she shouted. He doesn't deserve what we gave him. Every head turned. Her voice cracked on the word son. It echoed across the room, desperate and venomous all at once. And for the first time in my life, I smiled at her, because she'd said it out loud. The truth she'd always hidden behind guilt and performance. She didn't love me. She loved control. She loved the version of me that obeyed, that apologized first, that opened his wallet when she cried. And now, stripped of that version, she had nothing left but rage. I walked out of the courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years. Outside, the winter air hit like baptism. Clean, cold, real. Rebecca grinned as we stepped into the parking lot. You know, she said, I've seen a lot of messy families, but this one might make the highlight reel. I laughed. Just glad it's off my record and off my life. Not just off your life, Hannah said. Out of it. She was right. From that day on, the silence was complete. No more letters, no calls, No sudden grocery store ambushes. It was as if they'd vanished into the void they'd created. Months passed. Our daughter thrived. She stopped asking about them entirely. Her world shrank to what was safe, our home, our love, her laughter echoing through hallways that no longer carried ghosts. One evening, after putting her to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, the same place where I'd once opened that first desperate call from Mom about the roof. I pulled out a checkbook I hadn't used in years. Hannah joined me, resting her chin on my shoulder. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded and wrote the amount. $8,000. The memo line, for those still learning how to rebuild. We donated it to a local nonprofit that provides safe housing for women and children escaping abusive homes. When I signed the check, something inside me loosened. It wasn't forgiveness. It was reclamation. Taking what they'd twisted and turning it into something good. Hannah kissed my cheek. "Full circle," she whispered. "Exactly," I said. We moved into a new house 2 months later. Fresh paint, new locks, unlisted address. I didn't tell anyone, not even my aunt who'd helped me. Some things are safer unshared. Our daughter picked her room by choosing the one with the biggest window. "Can we hang stars on the ceiling?" she asked. "Every single one," I said. That night, when the lights went out, she whispered, "I like this house better. It feels like ours." I smiled into the dark. That's because it is. For the first time in years, sleep came easy. No phone on the nightstand, no camera alerts, no adrenaline waiting to flood my veins, just the steady breath of my wife beside me, my daughter's soft snores down the hall, and a silence that wasn't waiting to be broken. People say cutting off family is cruel, but sometimes survival looks like cruelty to those who benefit from your pain. They wanted me to regret walking away. Instead, I built a life they'll never touch again. Because when people only love the version of you that serves them, walking away isn't betrayal. It's the first honest thing you ever do.